You're standing in the kitchen, phone in your hand, staring at a message you already rewrote 3 times. Your chest feels tight. You want to explain yourself one more time. Soften the words, keep the connection alive. Then something unexpected happens. You put the phone down, not in anger, not in drama, just tired. That small moment is where everything changes, and most people don't realize it until the empath is already gone. If you've ever watched someone disappear quietly from your life and thought it came out of nowhere, stay with me. And if you are the one who learned how to go silent after being pushed too far, I want you to listen closely. I'll explain later why this silence feels so different from any silence before. I'll also explain later why people often panic only after it's too late. Empaths don't leave loudly, they don't threaten. They don't count mistakes out loud. They leave inwardly first. And by the time their body stops reaching, their heart has already made peace with the loss. That's why it feels sudden to the other person. But for the empath, it was a long road. Silence feels hard for you because connection is your language. You feel energy. You sense shifts. When something is off, your instinct is to repair it, to reach out, to close the gap. Going quiet feels like you're breaking a rule you learned very early in life. The rule that says love is something you maintain even if it costs you. But silence becomes powerful the moment you realize that constant access is not the same as intimacy. Silence creates a pause where truth can surface. It lets your nervous system breathe. It interrupts the cycle where you were always the one adjusting while the other person stayed the same. I want to say something clearly. Silence is not manipulation when it comes from self-respect. It's not a game. It's a boundary. And for empaths, boundaries often come late, but when they arrive, they are firm. Here's a spine line I want you to remember. Respect is the door. When it closes, I leave. Let that land. We'll come back to it. Chasing lowers your position not because you are weak, but because it teaches people that your presence is guaranteed. When you chase, you tell the other person that the relationship will survive without effort from them. You become the one managing the emotional weight for 2 people. Think about it. Every time you explain your pain again, every time you forgive without change, every time you reach out after being dismissed, you are training someone on how little they need to give to keep you. Empaths don't chase because they lack dignity. They chase because they hope empathy will awaken empathy. But hope without boundaries slowly turns into self-erasure. Silence feels uncomfortable because it goes against your identity. You're the one who understands, the one who stays, the one who gives people the benefit of the doubt. No contact feels like you're abandoning who you are. But what you're really doing is returning to yourself. There's a moment that happens before an empath disappears that almost no one talks about. It's not rage. It's clarity. It's the quiet realization that love should not feel like constant self-sacrifice. I'll explain later how to recognize that moment because once it passes, things rarely go back. When you stop chasing, the dynamic changes immediately. Not always on the outside, but on the inside, your body stops bracing. Your mind stops rehearsing conversations. You begin to notice how tired you actually were. People often confuse your silence with indifference. It isn't. It's the last form of honesty you have left. You've said the words already. You've shown the feelings. Silence is what remains when communication has been exhausted. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Many people don't miss the empath at first. They miss the role. The listener, the emotional anchor, the one who absorbed the tension so others didn't have to. That's why reactions often come late and feel intense. Remember the spine line again. Respect is the door. When it closes, I leave. This is not punishment. This is consequence. If you're an empath, you don't disappear because someone made one mistake. You disappear because the same wound was touched too many times after you asked for care. You leave because staying would mean betraying yourself. Silence is powerful because it restores balance. It takes your energy back from places where it was being spent without return. It reminds you that your presence is valuable, not automatic. And if you're sitting in silence right now, fighting the urge to reach out, I want you to know something. The discomfort you feel is not a sign you're doing something wrong. It's a sign you're breaking an old pattern, a pattern that taught you to earn love instead of expect respect. In the next part, we're going to talk about what actually happens psychologically when an empath steps back, what shifts in the other person's mind when your availability disappears, and how to handle the urge to reconnect without losing yourself again. Stay with me. You haven't disappeared. You're just finally standing where you should have been all along. When you step back, it doesn't just change the relationship. It changes your internal wiring. For an empath, stepping back is not passive. It is an active psychological shift from external focus to internal authority. You stop asking, how do I keep this, and start asking, does this deserve me? The psychology of stepping back begins in the nervous system. When you are constantly reaching out, waiting for replies, explaining yourself, your body stays in a low-grade state of threat. You are scanning for signals, timing, silence. When you step back, that constant alertness slowly eases. Your body starts to learn that safety does not come from managing other people's emotions. It comes from self-trust. At first, stepping back feels wrong, almost selfish. You may feel guilt for not checking in, not fixing, not softening the tension. That guilt is not intuition. It is conditioning. It is the echo of old roles where you learned that love meant responsibility for other people's comfort. Now here's what changes in their mind when you stop reaching out. The dynamic flips. When you were always available, your presence blended into the background. It felt constant, predictable. When that presence is removed, it becomes noticeable. Silence creates contrast, and contrast creates awareness. Many people don't reflect while they're being accommodated. They reflect when accommodation ends. Your absence forces them to sit with themselves, with the gap you used to fill, with the effort they didn't have to make before. This is where panic can appear. Not always as missing you emotionally, but as losing access, losing reassurance, losing the emotional cushion. That's why messages often come late, or suddenly feel urgent, or oddly intense. But here's the part you need to hear clearly. Their reaction is information, not instruction. Just because someone reacts does not mean you must respond. Say the spine line with me again. Respect is the door. When it closes, I leave. Handling the urge to text or call is one of the hardest parts for an empath, because the urge is not logical. It's somatic. It lives in the body, so you don't fight it with willpower. You slow it down. When the urge hits, don't ask yourself if you should reach out. Ask yourself what you're actually feeling. Is it loneliness, anxiety, guilt, habit? Name it. When you name it, it loosens its grip. Give yourself a pause window. Tell yourself you'll wait 24 hours. Most urges peak and pass if you don't feed them immediately. During that pause, ground yourself physically. Walk. Breathe deeper than feels necessary. Put your phone in another room if you need to. This isn't avoidance, it's regulation. Another practical step is to write the message you want to send, but don't send it. Let the words come out without consequence. Often what you'll discover is that you weren't reaching out to connect. You were reaching out to soothe discomfort. Once the discomfort is acknowledged, the urge loses power. Repeat the spine line again quietly if you need to. Respect is the door. When it closes, I leave. What you should focus on daily instead of chasing is rebuilding internal structure. Empaths often pour energy outward and neglect their own foundation. Stepping back is the moment you redirect that energy home. Focus on consistency, simple routines that remind your body you exist beyond this connection. Wake up and do one thing that is just for you. Move your body, feed yourself well. Finish something small that you start. These actions seem unrelated to relationships, but they rebuild self-trust, which is the real anchor. Emotionally focus on discernment instead of empathy. Empathy asks, why are they like this? Discernment asks, how does this affect me? One keeps you stuck, the other sets you free. As you stop chasing, you may notice memories resurfacing. Old relationships, old wounds, this is normal. When you stop running towards someone else, your system has space to process what it's been carrying. Be gentle with that. You're not regressing, you're integrating. Say the spine line again. Respect is the door. When it closes, I leave. Another shift that happens is your perception sharpens. You start to see patterns more clearly. Who shows up, who doesn't, who respects your pace, who resists your boundaries. This clarity can feel lonely at first, but it is also deeply empowering. You might also notice that when you stop reaching out, some people disappear entirely. That can hurt. Let it. Pain here is information. It tells you what the connection was built on. If effort only existed when you provided it, silence reveals that truth without argument. Stepping back is not about control. It's about alignment. You are aligning your behavior with your worth. You are no longer offering yourself at a discount just to keep a connection alive. And yes, sometimes stepping back leads to reconnection on healthier terms. Other times, it leads to endings. Both outcomes require the same foundation, self-respect. One more time, let the spine line settle into your body. Respect is the door. When it closes, I leave. In the next part, we're going to talk about what to do if they come back and what to do if they don't, how to move forward with dignity either way, and how silence, in the end, always reveals the truth. Stay with me. This is where the real power begins to show. If they come back, this is where most empaths lose themselves again. Not because they're weak, but because relief feels like resolution. Someone reaching out can trigger hope, nostalgia, and the old instinct to rush toward repair. Slow down. Coming back is not the same as changing. If they return, your first job is not to explain, justify, or catch up. Your first job is to observe. Are they curious about you or uncomfortable without you? Are they taking responsibility or just reopening access? Words matter less than consistency. Pace is everything here. You don't resume closeness just because contact resumes. You let time reveal intention. Boundaries are not ultimatums. They are standards lived quietly. You don't need to list rules. You need to notice how you feel after interactions. Do you feel calm, respected, steady, or anxious, confused, smaller? Your body will tell you before your mind does. Say the spine line again and mean it. Respect is the door. When it closes, I leave. Standards are not punishments, they are filters. You are no longer auditioning for connection. You are evaluating alignment. That means you allow space. You don't overgive to prove safety. You don't rush vulnerability to recreate closeness. You let the relationship earn depth this time. If they push against your pace, that tells you something. If they minimize your boundaries, that tells you something. If they show patience and accountability, that also tells you something. Silence taught you to listen. Don't stop listening now. Now, if they don't come back, this is where dignity becomes your anchor. No dramatic closure. No final speech. No proving what they lost. Closure doesn't come from their understanding. It comes from your acceptance. Not everyone who mattered was meant to stay. Some connections exist to teach you where you abandoned yourself. Once the lesson is learned, the relationship has completed its purpose. Grief may come in waves, let it. Missing someone does not mean you made the wrong choice. It means you are human. But you do not chase closure. You build it internally by honoring what you know now. Moving forward means redirecting energy, not suppressing it. You take everything you gave away so easily and you give it back to your life, your health, your creativity, your friendships, your future. You become someone who no longer needs to disappear because you no longer overextend. Silence reveals truth either way. If they come back with effort, silence showed them your value. If they don't, silence showed you the limits of the connection. Either way, you gain clarity without losing yourself. Say the spine line once more. Respect is the door. When it closes, I leave. Here's the fast truth. You stopped chasing. You regulated your nervous system. You let absence speak. You observed instead of reacted. You chose dignity over urgency. That is the shift. That is the work. One clear action step. For the next 7 days, do not initiate contact with anyone who consistently drains you. Notice how your body feels. Notice who reaches out with care. Notice what your energy does when it's no longer leaking. That awareness alone will change how you choose forever. You are not disappearing to punish anyone. You are appearing for yourself. Quietly, firmly, with self-respect. And if this resonated, watch the next video where we talk about what happens when an empath finally stops explaining themselves.